importance to us. We are used to partner with multinationals and suppliers to grow together. We offer a broad range of financial products. We offer a full local and international service portfolio. We offer a personalized customer experience. For you, safe and reliable, swift payments are imperative. You might require host-to-host services, multi-tier authorizations, iBanking, payrolling, and employee packages. Your local suppliers might need financing. We can provide financing based on the contracts you have with them. And we can act as syndicated leader for sourcing larger loans. Finabank is a local bank and is privately owned by a diverse group of trusted shareholders. We are the second bank in Suriname in terms of profitability. Our market share is 15%, which is consistently growing. We have implemented ESG standards since 2021, and we live by our high governance and integrity standards. Our reporting is based on full IFRS, and we are audited by a Big Four accounting firm. At the heart of everything we do is our purpose, to empower people to own a future. It is our purpose to empower, enable, and assist you to own your future, financially, professionally, and personally. We add value in every step you want to take. We are looking forward to welcome you to Finabank. Through our energy desk, we are ready to engage with you. Local presence, global reach. That's what we as Finabank offer you. For more than 30 years, we empower our customers' success and create excellent personal experiences. Our dedicated team of caring professionals go the extra mile to understand your needs and to provide you with specific solutions, because your success is ours. The energy sector is the most important sector in Suriname and of strategic importance to us. We are used to partner with multinationals and suppliers to grow together. We offer a broad range of financial products. We offer a full local and international service portfolio. We offer a personalized customer experience. For you, safe and reliable, swift payments are imperative. You might require host-to-host services, multi-tier authorizations, iBanking, payrolling, and employee packages. Your local suppliers might need financing. We can provide financing based on the contracts you have with them. And we can act as syndicated leader for sourcing larger loans. Finabank is a local bank and is privately owned by a diverse group of trusted shareholders. We are the second bank in Suriname in terms of profitability. Our market share is 15%, which is consistently growing. We have implemented ESG standards since 2021, and we live by our high governance and integrity standards. Our reporting is based on full IFRS, and we are audited by a Big Four accounting firm. At the heart of everything we do is our purpose, to empower people to own a future. It is our purpose to empower, enable, and assist you to own your future, financially, professionally, and personally. We add value in every step you want to take. We are looking forward to welcome you to Finabank. Through our energy desk, we are ready to engage with you. Local presence, global reach. That's what we as Finabank offer you. For more than 30 years, we empower our customers' success and create excellent personal experiences. Our dedicated team of caring professionals go the extra mile to understand your needs and to provide you with specific solutions, because your success is ours. The energy sector is the most important sector in Suriname and of strategic importance to us. We are used to partner with multinationals and suppliers to grow together. We offer a broad range of financial products. We offer a full local and international service portfolio. We offer a personalized customer experience. For you, safe and reliable, swift payments are imperative. You might require host-to-host services, multi-tier authorizations, iBanking, payrolling, and employee packages. Your local suppliers might need financing. We can provide financing based on the contracts you have with them. And we can act as syndicated leader for sourcing larger loans. Finabank is a local bank and is privately owned by a diverse group of trusted shareholders. We are the second bank in Suriname in terms of profitability. Our market share is 15%, which is consistently growing. We have implemented ESG standards since 2021, and we live by our high governance and integrity standards. Our reporting is based on full IFRS, and we are audited by a Big Four accounting firm. At the heart of everything we do is our purpose, to empower people to own a future. It is our purpose to empower, enable, and assist you to own your future, financially, professionally, and personally. We add value in every step you want to take. We are looking forward to welcome you to Fina Bank. Through our energy desk, we are ready to engage with you. Local presence, global reach. That's what we as Fina Bank offer you. For more than 30 years, we empower our customers' success and create excellent personal experiences. Our dedicated team of caring professionals go the extra mile to understand your needs and to provide you with specific solutions, because your success is ours. The energy sector is the most important sector in Suriname and of strategic importance to us. We are used to partner with multinationals and suppliers to grow together. We offer a broad range of financial products. We offer a full local and international service portfolio. We offer a personalized customer experience. For you, safe and reliable, swift payments are imperative. You might require host-to-host services, multi-tier authorizations, iBanking, payrolling, and employee packages. Your local suppliers might need financing. We can provide financing based on the contracts you have with them. And we can act as syndicated leader for sourcing larger loans. Fina Bank is a local bank and is privately owned by a diverse group of trusted shareholders. We are the second bank in Suriname in terms of profitability. Our market share is 15%, which is consistently growing. We have implemented ESG standards since 2021, and we live by our high governance and integrity standards. Our reporting is based on full IFRS, and we are audited by a Big Four accounting firm. At the heart of everything we do is our purpose, to empower people to own a future. It is our purpose to empower, enable, and assist you to own your future, financially, professionally, and personally. We add value in every step you want to take. We are looking forward to welcome you to Fina Bank. Through our energy desk, we are ready to engage with you. Local presence, global reach. That's what we as Fina Bank offer you. For more than 30 years, we empower our customers' success and create excellent personal experiences. Our dedicated team of caring professionals go the extra mile to understand your needs and to provide you with specific solutions, because your success is ours. The energy sector is the most important sector in Suriname and of strategic importance to us. We are used to partner with multinationals and suppliers to grow together. We offer a broad range of financial products. We offer a full local and international service portfolio. We offer a personalized customer experience. For you, safe and reliable, swift payments are imperative. You might require host-to-host services, multi-tier authorizations, iBanking, payrolling, and employee packages. Your local suppliers might need financing. We can provide financing based on the contracts you have with them. And we can act as syndicated leader for sourcing larger loans. Fina Bank is a local bank and is privately owned by a diverse group of trusted shareholders. We are the second bank in Suriname in terms of profitability. Our market share is 15%, which is consistently growing. We have implemented ESG standards since 2021, and we live by our high governance and integrity standards. Our reporting is based on full IFRS, and we are audited by a Big Four accounting firm. At the heart of everything we do is our purpose, to empower people to own a future. It is our purpose to empower, enable, and assist you to own your future, financially, professionally, and personally. We add value in every step you want to take. We are looking forward to welcome you to Fina Bank. Through our energy desk, we are ready to engage with you. Local presence, global reach. That's what we as Fina Bank offer you. For more than 30 years, we empower our customers' success and create excellent personal experiences. Our dedicated team of caring professionals go the extra mile to understand your needs and to provide you with specific solutions, because your success is ours. The energy sector is the most important sector in Suriname and of strategic importance to us. We are used to partner with multinationals and suppliers to grow together. We offer a broad range of financial products. We offer a full local and international service portfolio. We offer a personalized customer experience. For you, safe and reliable, SWIFT payments are imperative. You might require host-to-host services, multi-tier authorizations, iBanking, payrolling, and employee packages. Your local suppliers might need financing. We can provide financing based on the contracts you have with them. And we can act as syndicated leader for sourcing larger loans. FinaBank is a local bank and is privately owned by a diverse group of trusted shareholders. We are the second bank in Suriname in terms of profitability. Our market share is 15%, which is consistently growing. We have implemented ESG standards since 2021, and we live by our high governance and integrity standards. Our reporting is based on full IFRS, and we are audited by a Big Four accounting firm. At the heart of everything we do is our purpose, to empower people to own a future. It is our purpose to empower, enable, and assist you to own your future, financially, professionally, and personally. We add value in every step you want to take. We are looking forward to welcome you to FinaBank. Through our energy desk, we are ready to engage with you. Local presence, global reach. That's what we as FinaBank offer you. For more than 30 years, we empower our customers' success and create excellent personal experiences. Our dedicated team of caring professionals go the extra mile to understand your needs and to provide you with specific solutions, because your success is ours. The energy sector is the most important sector in Suriname and of strategic importance to us. We are used to partner with multinationals and suppliers to grow together. We offer a broad range of financial products. We offer a full local and international service portfolio. We offer a personalized customer experience. For you, safe and reliable, SWIFT payments are imperative. You might require host-to-host services, multi-tier authorizations, iBanking, payrolling, and employee packages. Your local suppliers might need financing. We can provide financing based on the contracts you have with them. And we can act as syndicated leader for sourcing larger loans. FinaBank is a local bank and is privately owned by a diverse group of trusted shareholders. We are the second bank in Suriname in terms of profitability. Our market share is 15%, which is consistently growing. We have implemented ESG standards since 2021, and we live by our high governance and integrity standards. Our reporting is based on full IFRS, and we are audited by a The heart of everything we do is our purpose, to empower people to own a future. It is our purpose to empower, enable, and assist you to own your future, financially, professionally, and personally. We add value in every step you want to take. We are looking forward to welcome you to FinaBank. Through our energy desk, we are ready to
Good. Can I invite everybody to come inside, please? Ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, can I invite you to take your seats, please? En hier ook. Maar. Ya sudah. Masuk. Ya sudah. Ik was de dagavond voor gekeken. De eerste dag ben ik het aan gisteren ben ik niet gegaan. En vandaag ga ik ook niet. Ik ga zo naar huis. Ja, het is prachtig. No, dat niet. Maar ik ga naar huis. Ik ben nog wel aan het ja, dus nu maak ik af. Ga ik Sherida aankondigen dat zij de middag is. Morgen, ja. En dan ga ik weg. En morgen is het. Alleen vanmiddag. Kan je die deuren sluiten? Ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, can you please take your seats? Can the organization ask the people to come inside? Can members of the organization in the back ask the people to come inside? Ladies and gentlemen, can you please take your seats? Nee, die meisjes van jou, die moeten niet. Members of the organization in the back, please take the delegates inside. Maar Marcela, what is this? Kan je beginnen zonder hem? Heb je hem? Bel hem eens. Dave. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. We now have our scene setter presentation, Suriname's Revolve Towards Sustainable Energy Planning and Transition, a balanced overview of Suriname's energy outlook. I introduce and welcome Dave Abeleven, Managing Director of Energy Authority of Suriname.
Yes. Good morning, everybody. My presentation, as mentioned, will be about the Suriname's resolve towards sustainable energy planning and transition, giving you an overview of our energy sector in our country. First of all, I would like to note that this presentation is for a great deal based on the preliminary results of the energy planning process, focus on the development of the electricity sector plan, which is conducted by the Energy Authority of Suriname in close collaboration with the main stakeholders in the energy sector, being the government through the Ministry of Natural Resources, Staatsolie, and ABS. Regarding the ESP development, that is the electricity sector plan development and our energy planning process, we use the integrated resource and resilience process model, a widely used model in the Caribbean, with the support of the Caribbean Center for Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency. First of all, I will be talking a little bit, give you a brief overview of the Energy Authority of Suriname. I know that not everybody is familiar that there is an energy authority. We are quite new to the scene. Then I will go over to the core of my presentation, going into a little bit more focused on the current status of Suriname's energy sector, and of course, last but not least, the strategic development of Suriname's energy sector in the coming years. So first of all, the Energy Authority of Suriname. We are actually, by law, we are the regulatory body of the energy sector. We are an independent supervisory and steering body in the energy sector of Suriname, which is all focused on securing the energy supply in a sustainable way. By law, we were established in 2016, but became operational in the last quarter of 2020. Really started to take off last year. So we are more or less more than a year on the scene, and we're actually still in our startup phase. And together with the main stakeholders, we are already working on a number of activities, number of responsibilities. Setting up the Energy Authority of Suriname is actually part of a number of key reforms that were initiated with the adoption of the electricity law in 2016. Except for setting up the Energy Authority of Suriname, There's also the development of the electricity sector plan, which I just mentioned, the setting cost reflective and affordable tariffs, but also reorganizing the electricity sector. The good thing is that the electricity law in 2016 that was adopted already placed emphasis on the sustainable development goals, being number 7, establishing the criteria for the assessment of future demand and supply options and scenarios, meaning affordability, availability, and environmental quality or sustainability. These 3 objectives are also the drivers for the tasks, the responsibilities that we have as the Energy Authority of Suriname in the sense of the energy sector planning. I will keep it at this because if you would like to get more information, please, I invite you to our booth J7 in Hall 2, where you can get more information, but I'll leave it at this and I'll go to what I would like to be talking about, and that is our energy sector. So first of all, when we're talking about the energy sector in Suriname, it's always good to look at it through a Sankey diagram. And if you look at it, then you will notice that the total energy supply in Suriname is estimated at 11 terawatt hours, of which the final consumption is only 3.55 terawatt hours. You will also notice that about 10% of our energy, of our total energy supply, is based on renewables, mostly hydro, through the Afabaka hydro plant, and the rest is based on hydrocarbons. 35% of the oil is used in the power plants, while 25% is for the transportation and the rest of the utilization in other sectors. And further, we see that the losses in transformation, combustion, and grids are about 52% of the total energy. To put this landscape in another way, and that is as follows, is that when it comes down to the electricity generation, you will see that at least 50% of our, and nowadays it's more or less 67%, 70% is based on hydro, and the rest is derived from hydrocarbons. Looking at it in another way, this gives you an overview of all the interconnections within our energy sector. First of all, the electricity generation, as I've just mentioned, for 50% at least, to even now 70%, comes from our Afabaka hydro facility. The rest is mostly provided, is mostly HFO, diesel, coming from our own refinery. So in fact, when it comes down to the electricity generation, distribution, and transmission, we're actually, as a country, energy independent. But at the right-hand side of this picture, you will also notice that our transportation sector, which is heavily reliant on diesel and gasoline, of which in part, gasoline, for example, is being imported. So this is to give you an idea where we are at the moment. Moving forward, the Energy Authority of Suriname, together with the other partners, the main stakeholders, as I've mentioned in the beginning of my speech, we have been looking with the use of the integrated resource and resilience planning model at how the energy sector, specifically our electricity generation, how could that be developed in the coming years? One of the first things that we, of course, need to do is look at where will we be at in, for example, 20+ years. So one of the first things, a possibility, looking at also the fact that hydrocarbons, specifically oil, in the coming future will decline, at least the use of oil, HFO, diesel. A possible future might look like this. I'm not saying that this is what it will be, but it could look like this. But I would like to put the emphasis on the fact that in this case, the total, the useful energy use would probably dependent on the growth of demand, dependent on the industrialization, the coming of industries, also the production, industrial projects, etc., could go from could grow by 200%. On the other hand, our total energy supply could grow at least with 30%, but that is also because of the fact that the losses can be reduced also due to the use of the technology, but also as we move forward and we see the development in the energy sector could be reduced with approximately 65%. One important thing to take away from this is the fact that the electrification, keeping in mind that over the coming years, the decades, the electrification of the transportation sector will play an important role in our electrification. The electrification could grow with more than 500%. So keeping in mind, looking at what the possible future could be for Suriname, one of the first things that we looked at is, of course, the demand, and specifically the electricity demand. For this purpose, together with Staatsolie, EBS, and the government, we've looked at what are the scenarios that could come in play. The first one is looking at the current growth, and based on the GDP growth, the economic growth, the population growth, without the expectation is at least in the coming 5 years, there will be no large industrial projects yet. With an expected growth based on what we already are seeing, we do expect a 3 to 5% growth each year. The second one is based on new industrial demands, small to mid-range, about 100 megawatts, for setting up industrial parks, but also looking at the petrochemical industry. It has been talked about in previous presentations already. But also looking at new industrial demand, 100 to even 1,000 megawatts based on developments such as the aluminum or the gold mining refinery. And one last thing that has already been mentioned quite often yesterday in the speeches and the presentations, but also today, is Arco Norte. At least 3 gigawatts of power that would be demanded. These scenarios, I must immediately remark, do not stand by themselves, but will increase the demand over time gradually. And of course, looking at the impact, for example, of the Arco Norte, and do consider this scenario as a feasible one over time based on the already executed pre-feasibility studies conducted in cooperation with the IDB. So that is on the demand side. We also looked at the supply side, and one of the things that we, of course, looked at is what our current resources. This picture you already seen with the presentation of Eddie, the previous presentation. We looked at what is the current added value, what could be the possible future added value, and what is needed to move forward. First of all, looking at the domestic resources, there are a number of resources that we are blessed with. Sun, wind, hydro, oil, onshore, offshore, gas that already has been proven, but also the offshore discoveries, and even what already has been said about bauxite. At this moment, not all of these resources are being utilized. For example, when we look at the current added value, it's only the hydro of a Baca hydro plant and the thermal plants, but also the refinery for export purposes. And moving forward, there are already some plants that looked at the hydro potential, expanding on that. We know that that is still politically, socially very sensitive, but except for that, the other resources can also play an important role for our electrification in the near future. Offshore, there's offshore wind potential, but also certainly solar PV. Also looking at our transportation, of course, our crude refinery, and ultimately all these potential developments could provide a significant supply of electricity for future buildings, green industries, but also the electrification of our transportation sector. Talking about, for example, green ammonia and urea for export purposes. We've also seen in the recent years, of course, the offshore discoveries. I will not go into that in detail because it has been spoken about already in a number of presentations. And that is the offshore discovery, of which it was also mentioned that is mostly focused on the oil exports, but also the gas, associated gas for gas to power, for eventually the Arca Norte project for export purposes or the export of gas, but also for ammonia, the petrochemical industry, gray ammonia, urea, also for export purposes. What was also mentioned is the fact that in the western part of our country, there is a big potential of bauxite. And that would mean that when we would be looking at eventually developing that resource, and of course, looking at refining and smelting, there will be a lot of power needed. And for that purpose, gas, natural gas, gas to power could play an important role into that. So this is, of course, to give you an idea of our energy landscape and what the potentials are regarding development. Unlocking the potential of our domestic resources for electricity generation as the demand over time will possibly grow exponentially. There already has been a lot of talk about the possibility, of course, of natural gas. But one thing is evident, that looking at the potential of the local resources, there should be a clear understanding of the approach. A combination and diversification of our energy resources for the purpose of electricity generation and distribution over time is quite evident. Key is here the vision, the policy development and regulations that needs to be in place. As the Energy Authority of Suriname, we certainly understand that and therefore took upon us as part of our main responsibility and task to take the lead in this and together with the main stakeholders of the energy sector work on the strategy moving forward. This strategy, as put forward by the law, already provides certain criteria based on which we can base our assessment and our analysis. And those criteria are, to give you a better sense again, is the affordability, the availability, and sustainability, the three criteria that already have been set forward in our current law. So these are the main drivers, the main criteria, which we'll be using in the assessment of possible and the development of possible strategies moving forward. How do these strategies look like? For the sake of time, I will not go into detail, but for example, one of them could be looking at the demand over time and putting against that the fact that we do have already hydro and oil. We can expect that probably by, if this would be as it is now, non-industrialized, for the coming years, this is only one of the options. Again, by 2035, there might be an issue with our demand reaching above what we can supply with our oil and hydro. So how are we going to do about that? How we are going to meet our demand? One of them could be solar. That's a possibility over time. That would mean that a number of things must be put in place in order to move that direction. So that is one option. Another option that we looked at is, for example, what about solar from now on? Focusing on the use of PV, also an option that we are looking at, that we are analyzing, that we're developing, again, based on those three criteria. And over time, that could also play a very important role. But another option that we have also looked at is, for example, a combination of solar and hydro. Also a possibility. We know that there are some sensitivities, certainly looking at what happened in the past months regarding hydro, but still, it's on the table, it's looked at. Also an option that we are considering and that we are looking at and assessing together with the main stakeholders in the energy sector. A fourth option even that we are looking at is gradual solar and natural gas, using natural gas as a transitional fuel in combination with a push for solar. In the coming 5 to 10 years, when this part of, certainly regarding the natural gas and oil is being developed, the infrastructure is looked at, something that we already could start off with is gradually introducing and ramping up the use of solar PV to up to 10 to 15% of our electricity generation in the coming 10 years. So also this is an option. You understand that this is only regarding the fact that you're talking about non-industrialization, but there are other scenarios that you already have seen, that I have already presented. So these options are not only for this part, it's also being looked at, being assessed for the other development scenarios over time. For example, also in this case, you could also have a certain conversion of our current thermal plants to gas to power plants. With this, I would like to end my presentation. And I do invite you, if you have any questions, you want to discuss anything, please look me up. We are also at booth number J7 in exhibition hall number 2. And we are looking forward also together with our partners in the energy sector, together with the main stakeholders in the energy sector, but also beyond Suriname, in the region, through CARICOM with our Caribbean brothers and sisters to looking at a more integrated energy sector development in the coming years. Thank you very much.
We immediately go further with our panel discussion, which concentrates on how to transition to a clean and sustainable energy mix. Dave Abelieven, Managing Director of Managing Authority of Suriname, is a member of this panel. May I introduce and welcome our moderator, Ryan Nanan, the Dean of the Faculty of Technology at the Anton de Kom University of Suriname. Devon Gardner, Deputy Executive Director and Head Technical Programs of CCR EEE of Trinidad and Tobago. And Robert Pancham, Chief Electrical Engineer of EBS. Moderator, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you. So Robert, if you can take your seat. Well, thank you, everyone. I would like to thank the organization for giving me the opportunity to moderate this session with some 3 distinguished panelists, all of them whom I know quite well. So we have decided that we will have our discussion somewhat different than what was done with the session before. So in this case, it is not that everyone will simply give their view about how to transition from where we are to where we should potentially be, but I will pose some questions in regard to the introduction that was presented in the document. And then after about 30 minutes of discussion, the floor is open to the audience to engage with our panelists. And of course, given the fact that Dave has set the scene for this discussion. I think that if you have some open questions, you can, of course, point those questions out immediately, and then those questions can be addressed. So Dave, you have set the scene quite well, and you have also presented potential outcomes. So you have basically given a detailed overview of the current energy landscape in Suriname and potential investments that can be done and where we can be. So how does the future energy landscape in Suriname potentially look like, given the fact that we have these massive oil and gas reserves now discovered? And so can you elaborate upon that? And of course, you know where we are now, where we should likely be, and how the transition should most likely go ahead.
Yes. Thank you. Yes, as I've presented, and it's also good to mention in this case that what we are doing as the Energy Authority of Suriname, together with the main stakeholders in the energy sector, is also, of course, linked with the vision that has been put forward by the government. As you already know, that our president has mentioned in his speech, but also the Minister of Natural Resources have mentioned it already, that Suriname is certainly committed to a more greener economy, to green energy over time. So one of the things that we are certainly looking at as part of the planning exercise or the planning process that we're now conducting together with the main stakeholders and with the government, of course, is looking in the 20+ years, how could we meet up with that vision? How could we realize that vision? One of the things is, of course, understandable, and it is all what this summit is also about, is that natural gas, but also oil, will play an important role in the coming years, coming decades even. So one of the things, of course, is that has already been mentioned, using natural gas as a transitional fuel, but at the same time also keeping the focus on the renewables. As I've mentioned, starting off in the coming years with pushing forward with, for example, solar, as 10 to 15% of our electricity generation, as part of our electricity generation, is, for example, one of the things that we're seriously looking at. So how would it look like? We are still in that process, but one of the things that certainly are coming more to the forefront is the use of renewable, for example, that of solar, in combination with the use of natural gas as a transitional fuel. So that probably will be one of the two main main parts of the strategy moving forward.
Okay, one aspect which I haven't heard a lot is about energy efficiency. Is that also something
Yes.
being taken care of?
Yes, of course. When we talk about the government, we're also talking about other ministries, other stakeholders that we certainly are going to collaborate and with. For example, within the government, the Ministry of Economic Affairs, who already has a specific focus on energy efficiency, is also one of the partners, also one of the main stakeholders. So yes, that is certainly also part of it.
Okay, now let's go to a higher level. Let's look at the energy sector from a regional perspective. Now, based on the discussion a few days ago, actually not a discussion, it was more a presentation, and the recent developments, I was made aware that we should rethink the regional energy policy. So if you now Google CARICOM energy policy, you find a document of 2013, which was approved. So what's the value of that document now, and how are we going to go further, given the fact that there is now this call for a new regional energy policy?
Yeah, thanks very much, Mr. Moderator, and good morning still. I think it is, yes, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very happy to be here in Suriname again. Just for the sake of those who are in the room who are not familiar, I would like to just take 60 seconds to talk about the CCRE, or the Caribbean Center for Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency, so that people will understand who we are and what we do. The Caribbean Center for Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency is an institution of CARICOM. It was established by heads of governments of the Caribbean community through a multi-government agreement. That agreement was adopted in 2017, July 2017 to be exact, and entered into force in April 2018. So the CCRE has been operating since 2018, and the CCRE has been established to support and accelerate the implementation of the energy policy and the sustainable energy roadmap and strategy of CARICOM in general, as well as the national energy policies and strategies of the member states of CARICOM in particular. The headquarters of the CCRE is based in Barbados, not Trinidad and Tobago, as we have been erroneously stated. So at the time when the energy policy was established in 2012, it was finalized and approved in April 2013. It was a labor of love. The process of developing the policy started through a mandate that was given in 2003. It took 10 years to get to the stage of an approval of a policy for obvious reasons. And on the one hand, at the time, there was no dedicated energy focus within the CARICOM Secretariat, which was driving the policy development initially. And that dedicated focus came in 2008 because there was recognition that there was need for that. And on the other hand, the interests of energy producing countries and energy consuming countries, at least those who are net producers and net consumers, are very different. And obviously it took a lot of negotiations, conversations, dialogues, us trading, you name it, to get to a state where there was agreement and a common approach or a common policy. That is, natural in every segment of the world where, those who are net energy producers will always have different views and different interests than those who are net consumers. And what emerged in 2013 was really a consensus document that captured to a large extent those things around which the countries agreed to cooperate and to coordinate. It had everything in it, from hydrocarbons to energy efficiency to renewables. So that is something that was very general and appropriate for every country in the region. Every country could obtain orientation from what was contained in those documents. It was very agnostic towards technologies and sources, but it was rather open to options and opportunities that countries may find themselves in, and did provide opportunities for countries to pursue those things which were specific to their national interests while cooperating on those things which gave them a competitive advantage when working together. We recognize, however, that there are some things that the policy may have been not as explicit on, although those would have been implicit. Issues like energy security were not very explicit in the policy in the way in which it was addressed. Some of the regional energy trade and energy marketing issues were not very explicitly framed within the policy. And so emerging within the Caribbean now, as we have the CARICOM region especially, where there are now multiplicity of hydrocarbon players, with the emergence of Guyana, now Suriname, and others who may follow, with the emergence of renewable energy options that are really cost effective and possible, especially large-scale geothermal in the Eastern Caribbean, and with offshore wind now looking increasingly doable, and hydrogen coming in the landscape, electrification in transport. Pretty much every country in the region can play a role as a significant energy producer. And that changes the landscape and the orientation of how the Caribbean energy sector is going to be structured in the coming decades. And the view is that we should shift towards a policy that reflects the new paradigm where we do no longer have the kind of polarization in supplies that we had in the past when we had started developing the initial policy, because of now the new arrangements that we have emerging. So we do look forward to a new policy coming on board. While I was at the CARICOM Secretariat before I went to the CCRE, we had drafted what we call a framework for the new policy, or the updated policy, which would run from 2025 to 2040 in 5-year increments, there would be revisions, and the view is that policies should never be documents on a shelf, but should really be revised periodically. So the view was that we'd have a 15-year policy, which would be revised every 5 years on a rolling basis going forward. Thanks.
Okay, so let me be a bit nasty here, because you've given an overview of how we started in 2003 up to where we are now. So there is so you have to take into account timescales for policy. And then when it comes to energy transition, of course, timescales are very important, because policy, finance, but also technology and availability of technology, those also have timescales which are relevant for energy transition. So given the fact that the development of policy takes quite some time, and then you need to roll out, of course, policy into specific measures. Do you think it's a useful exercise to develop something new without and you still have the old policy, and then so what drives actually the changes that you see in the landscape? Is it availability of technology, national interests? Is it availability of local resources? So can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so certainly the policy which would be, which, it's not that you're going to discard the existing policy and start from scratch. What would that mean is really an update of the existing policy. So you're not going to be developing a completely new policy, so to speak. You're really updating and revising an existing policy. So that's one. The fact is that we would expect that the new policy would address energy governance a lot more squarely, energy resilience a lot more squarely, would address energy trade a lot more squarely, and the creation of regional markets. And you heard a lot about gas integration. We expect hydrogen integration will eventually form part of that, and we expect that the sector coupling issues would be addressed a lot more in a lot more detail in the policy going forward. We're coupling with the energy sector with transport, especially with the kind of meshing of electricity and transport that we see emerging. You heard the transport minister this morning, agriculture and other sectors. We expect that those couplings will be more deeply elucidated within the policy. But the advantage we will now have in the updates to the revisions to policy going forward at the regional level is that we will be getting a lot of what we call sector-based intelligence. The secret has been created to be really a center of sector-based intelligence. And we are getting a lot of that sector-based intelligence from the ground up because of the integrated resource and resilience planning that we are supporting in countries. We are a repository of data collection, of statistics management, of information production and intelligence generation. And in so doing, we will have a lot of information on this real situation on the ground in countries. And we are able to use that and roll that up into really what the regional policy could look like in a pragmatic way. So we're not really doing these consultancies anymore. We are running around ever so often to try to figure out what's possible and what's doable, because we will have a lot of real sector intelligence on the ground in every member state. We have already done integrated resource and resilience plans for Trinidad and Tobago, for Guyana and Belize, which are going to be available at the end of July. And we are now doing other IRRPs, as we call them, for Suriname, for St. Lucia, for St. Kitts and Nevis. And we expect that by 2023, we would have completed IRRPs for at least 10 countries. So by the time we get to 2025, we would have had all these integrated resource and resilience plans with investment plans for every single country in CARICOM. And it's easy for us to then be able to distill and roll up those things that are common and figure out how we build a regional strategy and policy around the plans that are emerging at country level. And we will continually roll into those plans, any upgrades at the national level into the regional level. So we are getting regional plans and regional policies, which are periodically being revised every 3 years.
Okay, thank you. Now let's go to Robert. Of course, you are representing the National Utility Company, EBS, and now you have the Energy Authority, and it has been operational since 2020. So how does your planning, how do you then assess your planning with respect to the plans and the role now of the Energy Authority in the entire picture?
Thanks, Ryan. I suddenly realized it was already afternoon. So good afternoon, all. Um, yes, of course, since 2020, the Energy Authority came into play with the majority being a supervisory role in the energy sector. And how did it impact the planning of the utility? Well, from the Energy Authority, we were given EBS is one of the major stakeholders together with State Oil Company as being the independent power producer in the sector, to collaborate and to bring together all the previous planning, all the visions that we had, to put it on the table and to elaborate on that. Before that, there was also on behalf of the Ministry of Natural Resources, a concept electricity sector plan. And that plan is now being validated. And I must say that the utility has a very open forum at the EIS to bring in their part of their vision and the planning, and it's also being included for a great part in the new ASP.
Okay, well, given this this event whereby it was mentioned also Suriname open for business. Now, when it comes to investment in the electricity sector, I think you also have the electricity law, which now also allows for independent power producers. And when you have an independent power producer who wants to invest in the sector, of course, they cannot do anything without passing by some office related to EBS. So can you elaborate on that? So what would your role be if you have one large investor who basically says, you know, I want to have a role in this sector as an IPP. So what's your role in that?
Yeah, I guess one of the themes of the summit is Suriname open for business. Also implies that EBS is also open for business always. We have an open door. We have a responsibility, huge responsibility in the energy sector in Suriname. And from that responsibility, we know that we have to facilitate whatever development there is ahead of us. And from that point of view, we're also inviting all the investors, the potential industrials to come, to sit, to look together what your plans are and how we can facilitate that. Because keep in mind also, if there are large applications, the better we start, the sooner we are geared up to facilitate the development.
Maybe you can also check or think about reassessing the role of the utility in this case. Do you think that your role still remains the same as your role is now? For example, if you're going to develop the Arco Norte project or have a role in that?
I guess for now, the role has been set out quite clearly in the electricity law that was announced in 2016. I think still the main responsibility of the utility will be the supply of electricity. Whether or not we do the generation part 100% by ourselves, which is not the case now. The market might open up for other IPPs. And I guess that the electricity law is also offering that space, especially for the part of renewable resources of generation. And I think the great role for the EBS is to keep up with the infrastructure, the grid infrastructure, to have the necessary investments in place, to have the necessary capacity expansions in place in a timely manner in order to facilitate when it is needed.
Okay, so IPPs are now only allowed to generate power using renewables. Is your electricity grid able to cope with a large influx of renewables?
Well, it depends. In the case of renewable power, if someone, probably an investor, wants to invest in wind power offshore, for example, then that will be related to huge capex investment costs in order to get it connected to the grid. It is the same, for example, in north of Europe, in the North Sea, where there is huge capex being spent on connecting and reinforcing the grid in order to facilitate these new sources of renewable energy into the grid. And it's the same case at EBS in Suriname. It depends on what is the geographic location of the resources that we want to get connected to the grid.
Okay.
It's very case dependent.
Okay, now let's talk about what, or I wanted to highlight this aspect and see what you guys have as an opinion about it. During the last conference of parties in Glasgow, the president made some comments about our ambition with regard to reducing our CO2 emissions. Of course, they've mentioned that you guys are working out that scenario in all your planning to see if what's possible and what not. But he also addressed the issue of access to cash, to funding. So do you guys have projects available at the moment whereby you say, no, you know, because of the unavailability of money, we cannot do this? Or because my experience has often been that we complain about the access of money, but usually do not have projects. So when does it become a project seeking for money as opposed to money seeking a project? So are there projects in the pipeline with regard to modernizing our electricity sector, scenario planning? Of course, there is a view about how the sector should look like 5 years from now, 20 years from now. Maybe Dave, you can elaborate on that, and also Robert.
Yes, certainly that is one part of what was also mentioned by Devon regarding when it comes to the integrated resource and resilience planning framework that we're using is also looking at the part of financing. I know that there has also been mentioned in previous presentation and speeches, the fact that there is some kind of wealth fund or a stabilization fund. There's also been talk, and it is probably one of the things that we certainly are looking at, that the revenue that we will be generating from, for example, oil, gas sector, that part of that revenue could also be used for financing more on the renewables, in the near future. So that certainly, I think that would be something that we have to look at, and of course, try to get that going, and of course, get that in place. Except for that, regionally, there are some financing opportunities, there are some financing potentials through the CARICOM, through other partners where we also could use for purposes regarding renewables. So it's on two fronts, nationally, but also regionally. There are some possibilities, some options. So yes, that is certainly one of the things that we are looking at, and how we could finance the push towards renewables.
Robert?
Yes, thanks, Ryan. Of course, in Suriname, EBS is part of the big global game of energy transition. Let's say in the US, for example, last year, only energy transition related capex has been close to $100 billion US dollars. Of course, the money has to come from somewhere. It was not mentioned in the article I read where the money came from, but it has to be earned again. A great deal of that you will get back in avoided costs and other savings, but the other part of it has probably to come back from the ratepayers. What is the Suriname case? We have in 2019 performed a master grid planning study. And in the master grid planning study, we have looked at the generation and the transmission distribution as well. A fully integrated study. We have been we have been identifying which are the most probable candidate power plants and power generation resources. We have looked at, okay, what do we have to do with our capacity? How should we modify, expand, build on capacity, transmission capacity in order to cope with the developments of the coming 5 years? And there's a strong focus on the next 5 years, but the study itself covers a 20 years horizon.
Okay, well, given, so basically you have some projects available if you want to modernize your grid.
Yes, but of course there are other challenges as well. If you look what happens in Europe, for example, the energy transition is going at a very fast pace at the moment, and it is imposing other challenges on the grid infrastructure. For example, they have reached a point where in Netherlands, for example, they cannot accommodate, they cannot facilitate new customers, industrial customers anymore. They have been put on hold. And that is the other side, the other challenges that you get with this energy transition pace if it's too fast. So I have to be aware of that and look at the lesson learned from other countries as well.
Okay, we do have to touch about the role of hydrogen. And given the time, a short question. Do you guys, and this question is posed to all three of you, do you guys see a future for hydrogen in Suriname for the coming 5 to 20 years? And if so, why and what should we do about it?
Any hydrogen or?
Well, hydrogen for
green.
Actually, when it comes to hydrogen, it has to do with hydrogen usually because you need energy somewhere for a sector which is difficult to electrify. So maybe we start with Dave.
Yeah, hydrogen is certainly something that we've been talking about. We don't expect that it will play a major role in, for example, the coming 5 years. But we know that there are a number of developments regarding hydrogen, even green hydrogen, that certainly will play out in the coming years and probably make it more affordable. And with that, of course, that is something that we are looking at, and in what way that could be played, for example, in the petrochemical industry. You're also talking about, there's also talk about use of hydrogen, but also in your energy overall. So yes, it's on the table. Again, not for the coming 5 years. We do not expect to play a major role, but we're certainly looking at what are the developments financially, but also technical wise, how that is moving.
Okay, Devon, 1 minute.
Yeah, the future of the Caribbean lies within the context of how we can build our hydrogen scenario, our hydrogen industry. If you look at the technology trends over the years, as they have been pushed by those players who are pumping monies into them, you saw the acceleration of wind when the Europeans were pushing a lot of R&I into it. Solar with China, you saw what happened with EVs also between Asia and the Southeast Asians in China and to a lesser extent the US in that regard. We are seeing now where there's a lot of R&I and a lot of capital going into hydrogen, especially fuel cell research and improving electrolyzers. Storage of hydrogen is now becoming something that has been worked, and I've been working on storage of hydrogen since 2001 when I was in the University of Leiden in the Netherlands. So it's not today that was something that was on the table, but now it's becoming commercially driven, and there is money going into R&I. So the technology will improve by orders of magnitude over the next 10 years, the technologies, I should say. The expectation is that in the next probably 20 years, if I were to make a prediction, hydrogen will become something that households can depend on even for their own power sources. You could plug in a fuel cell into a household, just like you do with an LPG tank, to produce energy for the household. And so within the context of the Caribbean, we have to be able to figure out what that future will look like and where we will position ourselves in that future.
Okay,
and
one question. Can you mention a country in the Caribbean whereby such a plan is already existing?
So there are plans that have been developed in St. Kitts and Nevis now around geothermal-based hydrogen. Of course, solid oxide fuel cells would be best with geothermals hydrogen because of the benefits you could get from heat. But we see geothermal and offshore wind as the basis of what will drive the hydrogen industry in the CARICOM region. And we are looking at that also in Dominica. And there now is a plan afoot, which the SECRE is helping to shape in terms of looking at an offshore wind-driven hydrogen between Trinidad and Tobago and a couple of other countries, including Jamaica as well.
Okay, thank you. And do I still have time for 2 questions from the audience?
2 minutes.
Okay, I have time for 2 questions. 2 questions. Is there a mic available? Yes.
No.
Ms. Suknandan?
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Dr. Gardner. I have 2 questions. 1, what percentage of member states' national budgets or resources is going towards renewable energy? That's 1. And 2, do you predict that Suriname, Guyana, Trinidad going to become regional players in the export and production of gas and oil might lead towards decreasing or diminishing the funding that the region is getting in investing in renewable energy?
Yeah.
Perhaps you can take the second question immediately and then you guys can address it.
That was a second. Oh.
There was one more person.
Yes, good afternoon and thank you very much. Very professional panel. I want to emphasize on private sector. I'm happy to see that Mr. Dave Abeleven is now chairing something which was necessary and was implemented in 2016. And I'm talking from a point of view of being a Surinamer. So the president says that we're open for business in Suriname and he cannot do the development of this country without the private sector. But I did not hear anything really private sector from the panel. So my question is as follows. The projects which Mr. Robert Pancham displayed, are they open for private sector? Which he answered basically yes, but so far in all efforts made by the private sector, it was blocked because of politics. So I hope that now we have an energy authority, that the energy authority can specifically say that, look, these are the sectors where you can invest as private sector. And this is the energy cost, because when I looked at the
okay, but was that your question then?
It's
okay.
part of statement, and I will elaborate
no, just because of the time. I was actually
that's
told.
why I said I'm stating it as a Suriname.
Yeah.
So from the little bit of information we could get from ABS, who was the authority in the past, we could see that the cost of producing electricity out of fossil fuels is very high.
May I interject, please?
Yeah.
I think your question is relevant, but you can also visit the booth of the Energy Authority and of EBS, given the time that we have now.
So who will answer the question of the
I will
private
ask
sector?
both the Energy Authority and EBS to address your question. And could you guys please hold it together in 2 minutes?
Yes.
Okay.
So maybe Dave?
Yes, regarding the last questions, yes. As the law already gives an indication that there's of course room for the private sector to invest in, for example, as an IPP in the electricity generation. Yes, certainly we are going to stimulate that, and that will be part of the ESP that we're now developing. And indeed, there will be in specific indication what percentage and in what part of the electrification the focus will be when it comes down to the private sector. So yes, that is certainly one of the focus points in the ESP that is being developed.
Okay, thank you, Robert. Very short, and then Devon, you can address.
Yes,
very
also
short.
on the second question, also thank you very much for the question. Of course, things have changed since we have the Energy Authority now into the scene. But I must say that the ABS is always open for any customer, even the private sector. The only thing that I want to emphasize is the earlier you engage with the ABS, the better it is, so that we can assure you that we'll be in time by the time you need the facilities and the service from the ABS. That being said, no, okay.
Okay. So visit their booth. And Devon, perhaps you can in 1 minute, please address the
let me start
question.
with Dr. Suknandan's second question first, because that's probably the easier one of the two. Fact is that the energy transition is not expected to be a sharp drop where you go from fossils to renewables in a steep way. You're going to have a gradual transition where you move really from liquid fossils to gaseous fossils with some introduction of renewables, or more renewables, I should say, because renewables are already coming in. So you introduce more gas for those who don't yet have it, and or for those who already have it, of course, they start to introduce more renewables. So there will be a role for the Trinidad, Guyana, Suriname gas, and of course fossils, including liquid fossils, in the future of the system, maybe up to as far as 2050. Even in the context of CARICOM, the Sustainable Energy Roadmap and Strategy has a 47% renewable power scenario for 2027, and we do expect to see even up to 2050 more conventionals based on what we are seeing in preliminary numbers. So we do think that there is a role for the fossils, even as we accelerate the renewables movement. The gas actually will help with some of the renewables introduction, especially when you're thinking about the variable renewables like solar and so on. In respect to the first one, countries have typically not been framing how much they are investing in renewables upfront, because they tend to be doing it on a project basis. What countries have been focusing on is really putting in the enabling environment in place. What we do know is that within the context of fossil fuels, countries are spending up to 10 to 12% of their GDP on oil imports, those who are net oil importers. And they have been looking at trying to spend an equivalent of that in renewables to try to get rid of some of significant amounts of those imports.
Well, thank you. Of course, you can find all the information also on the website of SECRI. So thank you for your patience also, for giving us extra time. And I would like to thank the panelists here and also the audience to engage with us. So thank you. And I hand over to Ms. Reifos.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Ryan Nanan, Dave Abeleven, Devon Gardner, and Robert Pancham. Thank you so much. If you please take 1 minute to make a picture and in front of the seat that is together is okay. Can somebody remove the earpieces? Oké, help eens even eraf. Ja. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Our third session before the lunch, our presentation panel concentrates on the critical infrastructure and projects to support Suriname's nascent hydrocarbon sector. This session will showcase presentations on planned, proposed, or supposed major infrastructure projects being developed or envisaged to support Suriname's nascent hydrocarbon sector, from deep water parks to oil and gas, shore bases, free trade zones to road and hotels, gas pipelines and LNG developments to gas to power and other key projects and critical infrastructure. May I introduce our panel today, Mr. Andreas Stalea, General Director of NV Havenbeheer Suriname, and Mr. Walt Tieter, Phoenix Development Company. Mr. Guido Korendijk, Director of Firm Engineering, and Mrs. Mervel Kotsubi-Fleur, General Manager of DP World Suriname. Mr. Farsi Kudabuk, CEO, and Stefan Ferrier, Deputy Director of Vitali Group of Companies. Mr. Mike Antonius, CEO of Telesur. And our panel chair is Mr. Anthony Paul, Managing Director of the Association of Caribbean Energy from Trinidad and Tobago.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Here you are.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much to the organizers for inviting me here. It's a real pleasure to be here and to be in Suriname, of course. My task is a simple one. Today, we're going to hear about the private sector who are going to invest in building the infrastructure that will support the oil and gas development. And we're looking at things from shore bases to ports, to general infrastructure and communications connectivity. So we have some leading lights from industry here. And we will have some presentations, which 3 of them will be jointly by 2 partners who will introduce themselves and speak about the projects. We won't read bios, they're available in your brochures. So I will go quickly into the presentations, and at the end, we'll have a question and answer session where the speakers are here to answer questions you have and clarify points you may have. So without further ado, let me go straight into the presentations and ask Andreas Thaler, who's going to present jointly with Walt Tieter a part on how the ports are going to play a role, a new view on ports for Suriname. Andreas, yeah. Are you going to speak from there or here? The pointer is here. Yeah.
Good morning, or yes, it's still morning. Good morning, distinguished guests and all other honored members. It's a great pleasure and honor to be here at this summit. We have a presentation for you as Port of Paramaribo, the MV Havenbeheer Suriname, Suriname Port Management Company. For more than 50 years, Suriname Port Management Company has been a crucial catalyst of Suriname's economy through management and development of national port and transport system. Ports are every nation's first line of contact with the world. Ports exist to accommodate and stimulate economic development. We give substance to this, first because of the mandate entrusted to us by the government of Suriname to advance safe, efficient, and effective functioning of the national port and transport system of Suriname. And second, because of our vision, the core principle by which we are establishing infrastructure, facilities, and system to ensure Suriname global competitiveness for the next years to come. We aim to facilitate and we ensure that companies have the necessary infrastructure to operate their businesses. Our vision, combined with good cooperation and implementation, is the key to success. The world is now rapidly shifting, and we are ready for the challenges of fulfilling our role for the next generations. It's our responsibility to timely see the chances and the development that are coming our way, and to ensure that the national port system of Suriname is prepared for the shifting of the global markets and environmental conditions. The requirements for all industries to be more sustainable while also supplying a world with growing consumption makes the role of Suriname on the world's stage more valuable than ever. You might heard the Minister of Transportation and Communication, Yubitana, mention our new modus operandi, a new take on ports. In this new take, we are making nature management a fundamental part of our business. This is the new take on ports because we have shared responsibility towards the next generation to ensure that our national resources are properly used in our more environmentally conscious world, while also delivering the cutting-edge infrastructure needed for Suriname's economy to strongly grow into the high-tech future. Therefore, we are not just developing our port to make it better equipped for the developments that are taking place in the oil and gas industry, but we are also developing it quickly to accommodate agriculture, manufacturing, tourism, and the trade industry, because the world does not wait and we are moving along just as quickly. Anticipating to this moment and the new natural gas ventures, which our sister companies Starts Oli will developing, we have done our homework. We have been preparing for the past 2 years. We have taken risk and show courage, vision, determination, and we have presented to the Surinamese community our plans to build a deep water port and a special economic zone in Nikeri. With our partner, Phoenix Development Company, we have developed a plan that can bring our country a lot of development in the next 50 years. The current plans contain investment of $2.2 billion. The social and economic spin-off will be immediate. So, the President of Suriname, His Excellency Santoki, mentioned this week in that we need to change our priorities and look at the possibilities of gas and how we can exploit gas sooner. Now, the good news is that the Deepwater Port and Special Economic Zone project comes also with the establishment of an open access gas pipeline with onshore solutions. We have done all the work and are ready to start building the Deepwater Port in Suriname. And if we say ready, I mean we are really ready and ready to build now. We do not see competition as we believe that we are a facilitator. And to our partners, we say the cake is big enough for everyone and that we should work together to be able to use everything that is available for the benefit of Suriname and Guyana. That's how we look at it. We are in the driver's seat, and in the oil and gas business we in the oil and gas business are the movers and the shakers to deliver the solution of tomorrow and in creating a better present and the best possible future for our children. Welcome to the new world, we say at MVH van Beheer. The future is now upon us. Together, we are strong. Thank you for your attention, and I will give the floor to Dieter, and I will end by saying, let's get moving and shake things up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Talea. Ladies and gentlemen, obviously we've covered a bit here on the port side. I'm here to speak about a very specific activity and a very specific opportunity to change the world for the better and to do it now. Europe faces the largest energy crisis it has since World War II. This is an existential threat to the livelihoods through industry, lack of heating, commercial, residential. The entire gamut is under enormous stress. In fact, last week, Herr Habeck, the leader of the Green Party in Germany, the deputy chancellor of Germany, instructed German utilities to maximize the burning of coal. Let that sit in. The leader of the Green Party in Germany told his utilities, burn as little gas as you can, burn as much coal as possible. And this is brown coal. This is like burning dirt. Essentially, and the same thing has happened in the Netherlands. Rotterdam had record coal imports in the first quarter. This is a huge issue politically, economically. Gas prices are at all-time highs, and we have the opportunity to change, to make a difference. In World War II, Suriname produced aluminum. That aluminum was vital to changing the outcome of the war by producing aircraft. Those aircraft were made by the thousands. We have a smaller piece, but a great opportunity. We have the opportunity to develop and export LNG on a timeline that's never been accomplished before. I've spent 6 of the last 8 weeks in Europe and accomplished some important tasks. So we have negotiated with the national champions for gas offtake. We have firm interest in 7.5 million tons of LNG, and we only want to produce 4 million. It is first come, first serve. We will get this done. What we need is cooperation across all areas. So I sat down with the CEO of the largest LNG supplier, equipment supplier in the world, who gave me his commitment that if we sign, when we make FID, they will provide us and get us in service 28 months from signing that check. Today, our board authorized an expenditure in excess of $10 million to buy a power plant because we need that power plant to power the LNG. It's over 400 megawatts. It would be the largest facility in the entire region. So the question is, what else do we need? The critical item we need now is we need the gas supply. President Santoki, Vice President Brunswick have instructed us treat the entire basin equally. Any gas from Suriname, any gas from Guyana, whatever we can get, we need to piece together to make this happen. So what we're looking at here is world record time. All the elements are there. The power is there. The LNG equipment is there. We're also buying the ships we need. We have the environmental essentially firmed up. The engineering contracts are underway. And we are here today to say, let's work together as an energy community to help, once again, help Europe, help save Europe from itself. So this is very similar to the role Suriname has played already 80 years ago. We have the opportunity again. We look forward to working with all of our partners. Obviously, the support from the local community in Nikiri is, it's amazing. And we see the opportunity, we see the local content, and really transformational for the region. And we look forward to working with all of you to make this a reality and make it a reality immediately. Thank you.
Thank you, Andreas and Walton. I now invite Guido and Merville to come up and do their joint presentation on shore-based Susan Nadal.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am happy to give you a brief overview of the infrastructure project that we are currently developing. I am director of a firm engineering company, much involved in infrastructure on lands, but also on the marine sides, bridges, jetties, ports, terminals, but also offshore pipeline installation, offshore pile driving, etc. With the joint venture partners today, HJ Group, celebrating their 120th birthday this year, the oldest Suriname company in Suriname that is still operational, and of course, third party in the joint venture, very well known DP World. Together we develop this gateway that we like to present to you today. The world map of proven oil reserves, we all know that, needs to be updated. The Suriname, Guyana basin, so far over 12 billion barrels. And as we've learned also these days, just the beginning, promising area for a lot more. Very important is that these countries, both Guyana and Suriname, do not have a history of offshore oil and gas. And therefore, together with these new industries, we have to develop our economy, our facilities, our services, etc. We've seen it many times these days. It's the theme of this summit, Suriname open for business. And I'm sure that you have experienced that as well these days. Our view is that for sustainable development of our country, we do need the private sector to be directly involved in the offshore oil and gas industry as much as possible. That is a requirement for sustainable development. To get to that, we do need opening up of Suriname to make that happen. To make that happen, we are positive that the IOCs, the oil companies, prefer to work in Suriname, prefer to bring their business as much as possible to Suriname. However, it needs to be feasible. The business case there, it must make business sense. And it's up to us as Suriname private sector to make sure, and the government, of course, that we are attractive enough to make that happen. How do we do that? How do we attract as much as possible business? Number one, proper and reliable services to support the offshore industry. Of course, in general, risk and liability are the most important items if we talk about attractiveness of Suriname. Number two, that's the main topic of today, the facilities. Even if you have the required services in the country, we need this gateway to be able to connect the offshore world with the proper services that we have established in the country. Risk and liability, continuity of the oil and gas operations must be assured at all times. Very important for the oil companies to indeed take the decision to bring this business to Suriname. And as just the last one, environmental and social impacts must be manageable. If not, risk and liabilities are not interesting, and we do not get maximization of services to our country. For the first one, these services, we truly believe in joint ventures there. Our basis in Suriname, I think we have a good starting point. If we look at the Suriname companies active in the industry right now, the starting point is good, but we need an accelerated development to meet the required levels. A nice way to do that, we believe, is joint ventures with established foreign companies. You join forces, and there you have the acceleration. That is what we do. Next step, to attract to our country, as firm engineering, we did the study how to best prepare Suriname for this. Our conclusion is that the Suriname River is by far the best location for two main reasons. One is the accessibility for seagoing vessels, that's one. And number two, the supporting industries that are by far the best near our capital, Paramaribo. Long story short, our study of Suriname identified this area as being, in our view, the best location to create the gateway that we require. On the right side of the Suriname River, in the district of Kommerwijne, this area, 330 hectares of area, 1 kilometer of waterfront that gives an enormous space, enormous possibilities for, in first instance, the gateway, the shore base, but enough room to go even further up to a marine industrial park, all owned by only one owner, that respected old company, HJ Group of companies. The size is not the only reason why we identified this location as the best for a gateway. Another thing is, if you look at the nautical chart here, the river depths. In this area, with our 1 kilometer waterfront, we do have water depths between 7 and 8 meters. That is luxury in this river. Yeah, and you have to go pretty far upstream to find this kind of depths in the river. So that is a big advantage at this location. Another good point from a navigation point of view is that working from Susanasdal, we prevent going into the busiest area of the river near downtown, where we do have passenger boats crossing the river. We do have a shipwreck there. We do have a bridge, etc. Therefore, another advantage that led to this Susanasdal area. Attractiveness, in summary, close to offshore operations, that speaks for itself. Number two, good navigability and the river depth we've just seen, and the best supporting industries. Supporting industries are crucial to get the gateway going. Near to the capital, we do have very well developed supporting industries, so that is a big advantage for this location. Item 4, from an oil company's point of view, the most important one may be risks and liabilities. With this location, we foresee minimum interaction with road traffic, minimum interaction with river traffic, and an abundance of space to combine different supporting industries in one area. Actually, within the 330 hectares, lots of possibilities, all from the perspective of the oil companies. From the perspective of Suriname in general, we must make sure that the oil and gas industry brings sustainable development for the entire country and actually for all other sectors that need to be developed as well. Item 5, we foresee great opportunity for Suriname as far as spatial planning is concerned. By using this right side of the Suriname River, the Greenfield Kommerwijne district, if we develop that, that is to the goods of the entire country. This is the location that we've identified, the Greenfield. If we zoom in, we do see asphalt roads actually fit for purpose for developing a shore base, asphalt, all asphalt roads. And if we zoom in more towards the river, again, all greenfield, former agricultural land. But in the meantime, we have been working in the recent months and execution started. In the meantime, we have mobilized over close to 200,000 cubic meters of sand. And as we see there, soil improvement is ongoing, installation of vertical drains. From the riverside, we see there the equipment working hard to get this realized. We see the entire area, greenfield area, which indicates lots of expansion potential, and our phase 1 that we are currently working on and that must be online early next year is this, a 15 hectares yard and a front to accommodate a minimum amount of offshore supply vessels. We do keep in mind and we do reserve an area for a possible reel base or spool base 2 kilometers from the riverfront. The feasibility studies are ongoing, technically possible, but to get it all feasible, more things have to be looked into than just the technical part. So we look forward to the outcome of the feasibility study. But base case, even if we do not end up with a spool base, which would be great for the entire area, I must say, for Suriname, for Guyana, to have a spool base like this in the area, because at the moment that is not the case. If not, base case is expanding towards 500 meters of quay on the riverfront and in total 50 hectares of shore base. Further in the future, we do have expansion possibility for the southern 500 meters for an entire new port. At the moment, we reserve that as a general port, but those items all future will tell because the industry have to develop. The only thing sure right now is that phase 1 that you have seen that we are currently constructing. This side, the shore base, and then we fly over to possible in the future, the general port. General idea of development. No time to go into that, but if you need more info, please visit us and the booths, and we can discuss this part further. On the spatial planning, lots of possibilities, but as we just mentioned, it's a greenfield area. The idea is to develop that to the benefit of the entire country. Lots of opportunities we foresee here. Anyways, for this, then this is our part, my part, and I hand over to partner Mervel.
So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Stats Oli, for giving us the platform to present our story. The aim of the presentation is just to give our vision as DP World why we engage in this shore base. In fact, we don't call it a shore base, but it's a prestige marine industrial park. We are a world leader in the supply chain solution. We operate ports, terminal, logistics zone, and also marine services, much more also for the energy sector. We have 132 business units in 61 countries, 6 continents, so we have a global presence. We are also actively engaged in marine services, as I said before, and offer end-to-end solutions for the energy sector in Africa, Caspian Sea, and in Limassol. In 2011, we engaged in Suriname, and our current company is called DP World Paramaribo. It used to be named Integra Port Services. We are the largest terminal operator and offer as well supply chain solutions to different partners. Okay, Susanasda, why do we engage? It's not a shore base only. You can build infrastructure, but then you have to operate. As we are a world-class leader in operations, RoRo, general cargo, containerized goods, we are sure that we are able, with our 10 years or 11 years footprint in Suriname, to be able to operate, have operational excellence. As Guido already has mentioned, as terminal operators, we know risk and liabilities. We do know what perfect locations are to construct ports and terminals, and the energy sector, which is a very sensitive industry, we need to keep account with liabilities and risk. From our corporate social responsibility perspective, DP World aims to work in collaboration with its partners and try to minimize risk. As the, can you go back? Oh, there is one page missing. There is one page, yes, this one. So again, the Marine Industrial Park offers a lot of opportunities for multiple industries. As I said, it's not only a shore base. You have the capacity as Greenfield to really build up and invest in supporting industries. So basically what we said as in a DP World, we like collaboration, we like partnership, and that is our business model all over the world. When we talk about local content, there are certain pillars. We do know that the national industry participation and partnership are very important. Focus on local employment, skill development, capacity building, and sustainability. So as I said, in 2011, we started a local partnership, and we, until now, we are still growing strong. And DP World's business model is based on this principle. We do have local suppliers engagement, and contractor management is one of our key pillars. We support by actively by having HSC programs. Currently, our local management is 90%, and we have 100% local workforce. Our education center, DP World Hub, is an international education center. So we just step into that center, and we are able to build our capacity further. I don't want to go through all of it because we are running out of time. But again, we work in collaboration again. So basically, what do we foresee as DP World, the impact of this shore base? In 3-4 years, we will have 300 headcounts. That is basically based on the prospects of the drilling, exploration, and production phase. We know that in the shore-based construction phase, the FDI is there. That's where we partner for. And also we know that we will employ 200 headcount for sure during the construction phase. I think that it's more than obvious that the supply chain and the supporting industry around the park will be developed because of the fact that you have an industry there, the real estate, fuel, waste management, etc. The transport industry, inland barge, heli will be developed because of the facility that is there. We do know, as well as Guido said, we have the spatial planning, and there are multiple discussions on whether we will be able to develop the access roads. I think that Baitali has a very good presentation about that. There is a second bridge that is the thought process of the government, more FDI, more PPP, and more local investment. Again, you can build a very high facility, a good facility, but you need to maintain it. And basically the direct impact on utilities, M&R facility maintenance will be there, and we'll have a yearly spin-off. I'm sorry, I couldn't really elaborate. I would like to tell a lot more about DP World, but again, the future is this way. Thank you.
Thank you, Guido and Novo. Really fascinating look at the general kinds of infrastructure and some specific projects around managing and supporting the offshore, the maritime industry in Suriname that will come about because of the oil and natural gas developments. Now, as a child growing up in Trinidad, I would see these tall silos in Chagaramas, where people would tell me Alcoa and Alcan will bring bauxite from Suriname and Guyana and store it there and then transship it to Canada and the US. And I would ask why. And they said because they weren't big enough ports to take those big ships. So this next presentation really fascinates me. It's about how to unlock Suriname's critical infrastructure to develop its full potential. And that's what I think the opportunity that oil and gas presents to Suriname is about. It's not just about supporting the industry, but it's about supporting Suriname. So let me introduce the next two speakers, Fazia and Stefan, to come and talk about that approach for us.
They don't have the last version. They didn't load the last version. Need much in the last version. I don't think this is the last version. When did you receive it? Okay.
We have a little logistical challenge here, but we will overcome that by asking Mike, Paul, Antonius to come and speak to us about the connectivities, just changing the order a little bit, about the connectivity challenges and opportunities that this industry, this growth in oil and gas brings. So Mike, please, and we bring Fazia and Stefan on later.
Distinguished guests, good afternoon. My topic today is about connectivity. But before I get into my topic, I wait for my presentation to be uploaded. That's what you get with high-speed broadband, you know. Yes, there is. For me and now for you. Let's wait. Oh, thanks. So I choose to speak about connectivity and how connectivity can fuel the oil and gas industry into higher performance. And I will present to you today what we already have. What we already have in place to immediately serve your business. Allow me to introduce to you the company I represent. Telesur is a state-owned company. It is established in 1981. We are the incumbent company in Suriname, a full licensed operator that offers total solutions. And we are serving communities for more than 40 years. And we're here to stay, of course. In our roadmap 2025, we have divined that we're transforming from a classical telecom operator to a digital service provider, to a trusted digital service provider. Within this roadmap, all our investments are focused on digital transformation. And by doing so, we will be able to improve our services to all customers and to guide our community as well into this digital age. Besides investing in infrastructure, we invest also a lot in our people because they also need to make a mind shift to think digital. Our sole purpose is to serve. As Aristotle has mentioned, the essence of life is to serve others and do good. I will now present to you our e-Suriname vision. And before I do that, I want to elaborate a bit on the Telesur National Broadband Project. Actually, this project inspired us to create this vision. And we started this project in 2017. And based on the size of this project, we thought we need to put a bigger picture around this. This is Suriname vision. You see in the middle, the yellow and blue, that are our colors. And it represents that we are the e-enabler with our high-speed broadband services. This broadband project we have completed in 2019. And within this vision, we try to also engage with others to help secure our digital future. And you can imagine all type of services and put an E in front of it. And we create together this e-Suriname vision. During the pandemic, we have all experienced the higher speed we need to transform Suriname into a digital space as well. But to fuel this vision, we also participated in an e-payment service because this will not take off unless there are enough e-payment solutions, and they also need to be very reliable, of course. So we're participating in the Unified Pay Plus e-payment service, and I must say that because of the pandemic, we were a little bit successful. Also within this vision, we have defined that by the end of 2023, we must become a paperless company. One of the examples you see right in front of you, the seat, and you see on the seat in front of you, all the QR codes. Instead of being here with flyers and offer flyers to you, we present to you the QR code in which you can scan the code, get the information, and check it out at home in your own time, instead of walking out of this room and looking for the first waste paper bin and drop the flyer in there. Okay, I mentioned I will present to you what we already have. We're part owner of the Suriname-Guyana submarine cable system, which is, we also have the Americas 2, in which we participate in. And we are now working with X-Link to couple a submarine fiber from Suriname, but this time to Barbados. The current one, the SGSCS and the Americas 2 are connected to Trinidad. We really focus on reliability. We do not want single point of failures. That's why we focus on moving to the solution on Barbados. You see that we are connected to the north as well to the south. And this makes it very interesting because I know that foreign investors, they also our local parties, but foreign investors definitely will look for with regard to their business for high reliability. We cannot afford single point of failures, and we are preparing with the X-Link, which will probably be connected by the end of this year, that we have another cable running through Barbados. In total, we have on approximately 250 gigs available, and it is worth mentioning that we can easily upgrade to higher capacity. We already have connected the Guyanas, French Guyana and Guyana, through our terrestrial cable. With redundancy, the cable runs both sides of the road. Very important for the reliability, of course, for your business. I've borrowed this slide. I've borrowed this slide because we are observing the development in the oil and gas industry very closely. And for us to support your business, we know that reliability is key. And the only way that we think that we can support the offshore platforms the best is by submarine cables, not by any wireless technology, especially with the weather crisis we are all experiencing. Microwave, VSAT, they can be used as backup, but we believe that strongly that submarine cables are the only way to go. We already have a landing station, a beach manhole, that is Category 5 proof, which means it's proof for hurricanes that are as strong as a Category 5. We're not known for that yet, and let's pray that it continues. But the indications are that we definitely need to have this security. With regard to other services, I will not go through this whole slide, but you can see that we have mobile infrastructure development in a lot of ways. Currently, focusing on 2019, we implemented a pilot of 5G. We also are improving our mobile broadband 4G. We started with Paramaribo Wanica and expanding into other areas, especially into the interior. This gives you a view. The blue dots the blue dots, they are where the base stations are located. We have around 279 towers in total, of which 189 LTE and 30 5G. In the words of my favorite teeny artist, Marshall Montano, you see here the happiest man alive. That is how I felt at the time we launched our 5G service on the 25th of November 2019. We were the first in the Caribbean. And for us, it was a decision that was based on, if we want to prepare Suriname to attract foreign investors, we at least need to have a telecom infrastructure with services that they are accustomed to. At least put that on the map and put Suriname on the map. My life quote is, success comes to the well-prepared. So we have to prepare. We cannot wait until the industry gets to that stage. We need to be prepared. This is the area we cover. We have chosen for downtown Paramaribo because that is where the political and economic center of Suriname is located. And in this area, we have the 30 sites. All the improvements we're making in our network, they're noticed. We recently received an award from Ookla about the most consistent mobile network. We also have our fixed infrastructure, and here on this slide, you see an overview of the development starting from 2002. In this slide, I want to emphasize on the Telesur National Broadband Project that was delivered in 2019. We have implemented fiber to the curb, fiber to the home, but also in this slide, you see that we are continuing to expand the fiber network. Here you have an overview of what we have implemented in the past, the phase 1 and the phase 2. The white lines are the phase 1 and the red lines the phase 2. In the districts Paramaribo, Comoway, and Awanica. In the phase 3, we are expanding to other areas as well. As you can see in this slide, this is a project that we were working on to finalize by next year. And I've reached the end of my presentation. And again, in the spirit of Aristotle, allow us to serve you and do good for you. I invite you to have a drink with us tonight at the Ramada rooftop. We had a pleasant evening last night. For those of you who were there, have experienced it, and we have much more in mind today. Please feel free to visit our booths. Let us take care of your business. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. I invite Fazli and Stefan to come up and do their presentation.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, good afternoon on behalf of Vitali Group of companies. My name is Farsi Kodabux. I am the CEO of Vitali Group. Next to me is Stefan Ferrier. He is the Deputy Director of Vitali Group, and he will cover the second part of the presentation. The title of our presentation today is Unlocking Suriname's Potentials. And while we are at the Oil and Gas Conference today, you may find that our presentation has not much to do with oil and gas. And there is a reason to that. We give a more broader perspective. We, of course, highlight the potentials coming out of the oil and gas industry, but we also go broader, potentials beyond oil and gas, and we identify the infrastructure that is necessary to connect those potentials and to materialize those potentials. Why do we do that now? Because we think now is the time. We have no time to lose. Yes, in a short time, there will be an FID. You will have Suriname becoming an oil-producing country. All revenues will start flowing into Suriname, and the government will have a larger spending power on investments. But that's when it gets tricky, because if you don't have a plan and you have spending power, you will end up flushing your money down the drain. And that's actually the purpose of our presentation. We want to present our version of the plan. So the contents of our presentation this afternoon, I will elaborate a little bit on the facilities or what you have to do to facilitate the oil and gas industry. And I'll elaborate a little bit on some key drivers for a successful economic spin-off, while Stefan will tell us what will happen if we don't have a plan, because that will happen by default. And the last point is what we can do by design. So very important things to facilitate oil and gas industry. And these are not sophisticated things, but the usual basic things that you should have in place in a country. First of all, transportation networks. Reliable and good transportation networks is key. You need to have good roads and a good connection between the points of interest. In this case, ports, airports, the city, and other logistical hubs. Connectivity, also very important. I don't have to go into that. Mike has told us everything about that. And very important also, suitable land. What you always see in countries after there is an FID and oil and gas comes in is that prices of land rise, they skyrocket. And that doesn't have to be like that in Suriname because we have enough land. What we need to do is build the good connections and make land accessible. Otherwise, land will get very expensive, and perhaps oil and gas company may be able to buy those and to purchase those, but other sectors will not be able to do it. Emergency response, very critical also, and waste treatment. Offshore industry generates a lot of waste. You cannot throw it in the ocean or in the river or bury it somewhere on the ground. It has to be disposed and treated in a very professional manner. And last but not least, also education facilities. What are the key factors for a successful economic spin-off? I think a survey of the local capacity. That's where it starts with. I know Staatsoli has done some very good work on that. A lot of people think that we should have a local content policy where you bring as much as possible to be done by locals. But what are we able to do? What is our striking power? We need to have a very good assessment on that one. Otherwise, we're going to temper things. Also, a good balance between your spending and your local capacity. When oil money comes in, especially governments, try to invest as much as possible and as quick as possible, usually before the next election. They try to spend as much as possible oil money into infrastructure projects. But that's where you get a very large disruption in your supply chain. You get a very big gap between what you want, but what you're able to. And then you get prices that are rising. Prices of labor, prices of material, they double and they even triple. And you end up paying twice or three times the price of your project. But not even you, even the usual Surinamese citizen pays a price that's twice or three times for his house because everything becomes very expensive. Another thing when we're looking at our developments is we should not look within Suriname. We should also look beyond our borders. There are things happening left and right of Suriname. In French Guyana, you have rivers that have a very shallow draft. In Guyana, you have shore-based opportunities coming up. But also in Guyana, you have opportunities for bauxite together with Suriname. We should take those into account when we're designing our infrastructure. Fourth is unlock sustainable industries. Yes, we're going to have oil. Yes, we're going to generate some money, but oil is not a never-ending story. But use the funds while it lasts in a proper manner, and let's use the funds to unlock sustainable industries that can take us beyond the oil and gas era. I always say that our biodiversity is our most precious wealth, so we should protect and conserve it by all means. And last but not least, engagement of everyone. We think that Suriname is at the crossroads now, where the opportunities are huge, but also our challenges are unprecedented. And designing our future, making policy for our future should not be only a responsibility of the central government. We should all take responsibility, especially the private sector, in designing our future. Having said that, I give the word to Stefan, who will elaborate a little bit more on what we have designed. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The second part of the presentation will focus on the importance of spatial planning for sustainable development. Because if we develop by default what we have a tendency to do, we will encounter much of the same problems that we already have, but only to a much severe extent. So you can expect unplanned industrial expansion, but also negative impacts of that, such as decrease of traffic safety, increase of urban sprawl, but also conversion of agricultural land in the residential areas without putting the required infrastructure in place. We will also see fragmentation of nature reserves and natural protection, especially along the coast of Paramaribo, and that will lead to a higher vulnerability of the city for sea level rise. We hope that that we can use this platform to trigger a discussion about how we intend to plan our future, how we intend to use our land in a sustainable manner. So the first step in the design was to identify the gateways to the region, but also to other continents. And the current ports are, of course, the one at Nieuwe Haven in the inner city of Paramaribo. We see developments at Kuldup Singh, where the developments for the shore base are the furthest advanced. We have Paranam, which was an old industrial area with much of the infrastructure already in place. And there are new developments in Kommerwijnen, greenfield areas with potential DP World, but also Comport. Besides the river ports, we also identified the future airports. Of course, our international airport, Johan Adolf Engel Airport, but there is also a heliport being constructed now in the northern part of Suriname, which will serve the oil and gas industry. So before assigning land to residential or industrial, it's important to map all the nature reserve and to conserve them. So you will see the green area there. That's the area of paper pot that we would like to keep protected. But we also mapped the swamps and the mined areas where it is not suitable yet for development. The second step was to identify future industrial areas. Of course, we have the existing industrial area in Paramaribo and in the northern part of Wanica along the eastern or the western bank of the Suriname River. But there is no room for expansion over there. So in the long term, we see a very important role for Paranam to create sustainable jobs, while in the northern part of Comowena, there will be much other related industries. The next step was to identify potential residential areas, and we chose the area of Domburg because it was in between, let's say, all the jobs that can be created, the industrial areas, but it was also it's a little bit further away from the coast, so we are more protected from sea level rise over there. And it's in proximity to all the, let's say, the important hubs that we would like to connect to. There is also room for the government to decentralize their services to better serve the oil and gas industry, but also for the people living in Para and the southern part of Suriname. It would be easier if some of the services would be moved more to the south. So this is our current road network, and the first step would be to, let's say, to improve the accessibility of the Kulsing port. There are already studies being conducted now, and hopefully by next year, the first part will the construction of the first part will start. Second, it is very important to create access to the greenfield areas in the northern part of Comowena. And this will also, we can also make use of the existing bridge over the Suriname River near Paranam, where we can connect from, let's say, the end of the second road. We can extend that to the southern part of and connect to Paranam. And last, we see if the urbanization is developing more and more, then we see a need also for another bridge over the Suriname River connecting the districts of Comowena and Wanica. And this will enable or this will create a lot of new areas which may be suitable for commercial purposes. I will hand it over back to Farsi, who will conclude the presentation.
We're fine. Can I get a round of applause for our speakers, please? So we heard of what these companies in Suriname, state and private, have been doing to support the people and businesses of Suriname, how they're preparing to support the oil and gas industry, and how they're preparing to grow beyond the oil and gas industry to support Suriname development. We also hear about the need for collaboration with neighbors, for instance, and for coordination across the broader country spectrum. And I'm happy to see that perspective brought into the discussion on local content, and especially the fact that people are focusing on capacity development as part of local content. So unfortunately, we've run out of time, and we haven't got time for questions and answers, I'm afraid. But we do have time for we do have time for an announcement on lunch, which I think is more important.
First, let's give a round of applause for all members of the panel for all the possibilities we have created here in Suriname. And before we visit, we invite you to the lunch. I personally say goodbye to you and wish you a fruitful continuation of the summit. In the afternoon, Sharida Mormon will take over from me like yesterday. The lunch is at the pier of Torarica at the riverside. So you're invited, and fruitful afternoon. Thank you.